y'all, it's Cindy Toucher, and I'm here today with Kenya Parks, and she has some really cool stuff that she's doing. I met Kenya a couple of years ago, maybe. She spoke at a women's group of men, Professional Women's Association, and then she was kind enough to come and speak at another group of men for me, Glen Carew Women.
Yes.
Yeah. You're
Yes.
looking like I did. Yeah. You stay so busy you can't remember what you did. But she has an amazing story. She has a ministry called Kenya's Corner. And before we talk about the great things that Kenya's Corner is doing, we first have to kind of go back to the purpose of how it started, which, and you know, around the town of the South is about positive stories, and this for a minute may not sound positive, but we're going to talk about how you can turn a negative into positive. But go ahead and tell us, how did this get started? Well, your background.
My name is Kenya Parks, like she said. I'm from the Mississippi Delta, a small town called Marks, Mississippi. I grew up in an even smaller town called Darling, Mississippi. And growing up, I went through a lot at a very young age. And a lot of people say, how are you able to share all of this? Well, sometimes God has shown us that in the midst of our pain, our miracles are there. We can't allow our pain to block our miracles. Y'all excuse me, I talk with my hands. But growing up in the Mississippi Delta as a young girl, at the age of 8 years old, I was sexually assaulted by a family member. And I was silenced by yet another family member. And going through all of that got me to where I am right now. And I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. In going to college, I was faced with sexual assault all over again. And in going through that was when I think I found my purpose, and I began to set forth trying to figure out, God, why did I go through all of that? And growing up that girl, I grew up bitter. I grew up angry. I was resentful because I had to keep my truth hidden for over 10 years because I was told not to tell anyone about what had happened to me. So in the midst of that, I lost who I was as a girl, as a young lady. And I didn't come back to who I was until I became an adult. And I found who I was through the love of God by connecting with God. You know, I found myself and my confidence through him. So that's how Kenya's Corner actually started. Kenya's Corner derived from the inside of my pain. I had went through so much, and I didn't want other young girls to go through what I had once endured.
That's just, I mean, and it's probably, like you said, a lot of anger. And you probably feel like you missed out on your whole childhood because that was such a big piece.
It was.
And so you just decided at what made you decide, I'm just not going to let this control me anymore. I'm going to control it, and I'm going to turn this negative into a positive.
When I was in college and faced with sexual assault all over again, I went to my dorm room, and I'll never forget this. I had a dream that night, and I was scared, I was terrified, but it wasn't about what had happened to me in college. It was about what had happened to me as a child. At that point, I wrote a letter to my parents telling them about what had happened to me. And at that point, I knew something had to change and something had to happen.
Now, they didn't realize, they didn't know.
They had no clue.
Okay.
So this happened to me when I was 8 years old, and my parents didn't find out until I was like 19, almost 20 years old.
Wow. Wow. And so how did your parents respond to that?
Going through something like that, you know, I can see the look in my mother's eyes, you know, when I was able to talk to her face to face, you know, after exposing to her what had happened to me. The hurt and the pain, and her, I guess the biggest part of that for her was her not being there. You know, why didn't I tell her? Why didn't I trust her enough to come to her and talk to her about what I had gone through? My father was very angry because, you know, it was his sister that silenced me and told me not to tell anyone. So my father had a lot of pain that he had to deal with in the midst of all of that. But, you know, I thank God. I thank God for giving me the heart of forgiveness. I thank God for giving my parents the heart of forgiveness to be able to move past this. It's not something that happened overnight. Y'all please believe me when I say that it's not something that happens overnight. But when I look at movements like the Me Too movement that, you know, expose the people that have done things like this, but they don't tell you how to heal or mend after exposing your hurt and your pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you're a parent now.
Yes.
You have a son.
14-year-old son.
Oh, wow. And so you can now imagine being a parent, to hear that after when your child, to think, oh my God, I mean,
it's scary.
it would be hard as a parent to think, I wasn't there, and I should have been, and how would you know? I mean, it's just, there's, because it was somebody who was trusted.
Exactly.
It wasn't like you were just walking down the street and something happened. It was a trusted family member.
Yes.
So I'm sure that was very hard for your parents.
Oh, it was very hard for my parents.
But okay, so then, at what point did you didn't? Kenya's Corner is kind of recent. So at what point did you decide to start this ministry?
This was after 3 years ago. Kenya's Corner actually started about 2-3 years ago, and what it came about when I started writing my book. I published my first book 2 years ago, Coming Back to Me, My Journey from Pain to Purpose.
This is, and this is, there's such a glare. Yes, this is it. And I got this book a couple of years ago, and such a neat little book, because I was telling her you can write notes in it and everything, but I've written notes in a notebook because I want to be able to loan it to some of my friends, and I'm a book loaner, and but it's a great book, anyway, but yeah, that's it.
That was a part of my healing, writing my book, and I've always wanted to write, and sharing my story was actually a part of my healing. When I began my walk with God, one of the things, people say, you talk to God. I talk to God all the time. And it's so funny, but in the midst of everything that I was going through, sharing my story was a part of my healing. So when I published my book and I began to travel and I began to speak, I began to see that there were so many other girls that had gone through what I had gone through. Or if they didn't go through what I went through, they went through something that scarred them or damaged them in some way. So God was showing me in the midst of that Kenya, your story matters. I was always embarrassed and I didn't want to tell my story. And Kenya's Corner came because I wanted to help other girls heal. I wanted to show them how they could come back from the hurt, from the pain. And that's how Kenya Corner started. The ministry of Kenya's Corner started was I wanted to help young girls. And it started after I wrote my book, because I was traveling and I was speaking, and so many young girls just came up to me and they were saying, your story is my story too. And it was such a hard place to be in, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to offer them help. So I began to do my research, and I began to allow God to show me the healing process of what I went through, to show me how to help young girls come out of what they were going through.
Right, because really, if you're allowing an incident, as horrible as it is, to keep you oppressed, you can't be the person God created you to be.
You cannot.
And use the gifts that God's given you. And so, I just love the fact that you've taken something that's, such a negative thing and such a hurtful thing, and you've to use it to help other people who've gone through this. So what exactly does Kenya's Corner do?
Well, Kenya's Corner, about a year ago, someone contacted me and asked me that same question. And I was trying to create, I wanted a logo and I wanted all of these different things. And he became my success coach, and he told me, he said, Kenya, you are your brand. You don't need a logo. You don't need all of those fancy things. God is using you in this season to minister to young girls. You don't have to be a minister to stand on stage and do that. You're doing it through your everyday walk of life. So when I travel and when I speak and, everything that I do, I try to, the different conferences that we do for girls and bringing other people in, it's just the healing process, I think, is what we miss in everything. So Kenya's Corner is about healing. It's about bringing the mind, the body, and the soul back together. Because, after everything you go through in life, you lose bits and pieces of yourself. So it's coming back to who God created you to be.
That's just so neat. And so what if there's some girls out there who have been holding that back and don't really know who to turn to or how to handle that, but they know it's holding them back from reaching their dreams and goals. How would they get in touch with you or get involved with this ministry?
They can go to my website.
And I am going to put that on here. I didn't put it on the top, but I'm going to add that.
Yes, ma'am. They can go to my website, kenyascorner.org, and all of my contact information is right there on my website. And once you contact me or someone from my team will actually reach back out to you. And if I can't help you personally, then I connect you with someone that can. And I've connected with other ministries. I've connected with other groups that actually believe in and are trying to do the same thing that I am doing. So if I'm not available, I connect them with someone that I know can minister and help them.
That's nice.
At first, I was trying to do everything myself, and I had to realize
You're
that,
only one person.
and I'm only one person. And so what I did was connect. Along the way, God has sent people my way that I can connect with that believe the way that I believe, and their missions and their ministries are aligned with what I'm trying to do. So we're able to connect and tackle this together.
Now, out of the girls you've helped, have you seen any of them like transition into almost being, you know, in your role? I mean, are they, some of them, like, I guess I'm thinking if I don't know, if you've only been doing it 3 years, you may not have had a long enough time to where they turn around and want to mentor, you know, other girls. Or
it's so amazing because you said that. I met a young girl at one of my the first conference that I did, and she was there. I had no clue who she was, and she left the conference and reached out to me through my inbox on Facebook, and she shared a story of what she had gone through, and she was being sexually assaulted by a family member. And I actually went and I met her and began to talk to her, and she came back the next year. And to show you how God worked, she was able to go to her parents and talk to her parents, and they were able to face what she had gone through and to see her healing process. And she actually contacts me now, you know, and telling me how good it feels that her parents know that she don't have to continue to walk and live in that lie and feel as though she's hiding something. But that's just one of so many stories. I had a young lady that worked for me that followed my Facebook page and wrote me a letter, and Miss Kenya, you know, the same thing happened to me, but because of you and your story, you know, I feel better and I'm able to share my story. So I get that so often that, no, I don't want to stand and share my story vocally with the world, but you're doing that. You're my voice, but through you, I'm able to heal.
And you have something new coming up.
I do.
I don't even know what it is. She told me she had something new, and I said, well, you just surprised me. So
this is the first time that I'm talking about scars, and scars is a part of Kenya's Corner. And scars means strengthen your confidence and recover successfully. And scars, what we're doing with scars is in March, we're doing a conference for young girls. It's only going to be a limited amount of young girls that can be able to attend. But in the attendance of the conference, it's going to be small so that we can be personable with the girls and actually give them one-on-one small groups and different things like that. But strengthen your confidence and recovering successfully, what that actually means is, like I said before, you have movements out there that have started and they expose your scars, they expose your hurt, but nobody tells you how to heal. How do I recover after what I've gone through? Your story may not be that of sexual assault. It may be any scar. You know, growing up, you know, one of the scars that I felt I had was my lips. You know, and that may be so small to a lot of people, but I was made to feel that I wasn't beautiful because of, you know, the size of my lips, you know.
Look at now, everybody's putting all those fillers in their lips trying to look like you.
But I gained my confidence through my relationship with God. Learning how to love myself through the eyes of my Creator was one of the most beautiful things that could have ever happened. And I want to share that journey with other young girls. You know, my boss, the owner of Primos, tell me all the time, Kenya, you have a presence about yourself. But when I walk in a room, it's not me. I want people to see the presence of God. I want them to see the Creator, the person that created me. I'm able to exude that confidence even when I'm ugly, even when I feel that I'm not worthy. I know that He's there and that He's walking before me. And I want other young girls to understand and know that. Learn how to love themselves through the eyes of their Creator. And He will mend any scars or broken pieces that you've ever encountered.
I'm just so in awe of you. And I just, you know, and I can't imagine growing up. And I mean, you say 19 years. And I imagine the hard part is, by not speaking out, you're protecting the person who hurt you, and, which is so ironic that you would feel you needed to do that. And there's so many people who've done that. I don't know statistics, but I know that there's a lot of people who have experienced this, or like you said, other things that have held you back, or that keep you from feeling loved, or keep you from feeling like you can fulfill your purpose. And I just, young girls just need to know that it's not about what the girls at school think about you and the bullying and I don't know. There's just so much. It's so hard to be young
that they deal with.
Yeah, I mean, yours just starting out being 14. It's just
and
teenagers
he's dealing with it as a boy.
Hard time in your life, but But anyway, I'm just so thankful that you're...
No, I am thankful that you have me here. And it's, when I go back and I think about being a child and growing up and having to overcome all of the obstacles that I felt that I went through, and so many times feeling like that I was alone, that nobody was there, to protect me in those moments. But I'm going to tell you how great God is. And this is something that just happened on yesterday. But on yesterday, went to church with my parents. And after church, we stopped by this place, and the guy that sexually assaulted me when I was a child, he was there, and you would think, I didn't know he was going to be there, but and walking into that room, the feeling that I had was so peaceful, and I didn't know how, when I walked in there and I saw his face, there were so many mixed emotions that came over me, but even in all of that, there was still a feeling of love. And I can't explain that. And when I look at, what's happening on the news, what's happening on social media, what's happening everywhere with sexual assault, and we feel that we can solve this issue through humiliation. We feel like we can solve this issue by exposing people or hurting people. But you can't mend your broken pieces if you're still trying to operate within your brokenness. Yesterday showed me how much God has really done for me, how much he has really healed me, how much where he has brought me from. And I'm getting tears in my eyes right now, because as I begin to sit here and I begin to think about that, it would be so great if every woman that has ever gone through something could walk into a room with the person that hurt them and say, you know what, despite what you did to me, I love you.
And that would be really hard. I mean, that is completely... you've come through your brokenness and healed, and that's just, it's amazing. And helping other girls to do that too, because you don't know where to start when you've had to go through something like that. So just thank you so much for sharing with us and being so open and for being obedient to God's calling.
Yes.
He's called you to do this because you are a dynamic speaker, and if you ever get a chance to hear her speak, and it's just... wow, you should be a minister.
Don't speak that.
Oh, but she is, her voice and her you can't stop. You just are in awe listening. You just keep people's attention, and I love that about you. But I thank you and I just wish all the success to your program and your ministry and the event, the Scars coming up, and we're praying for the success of that.
And I will put more information. I will give her more information to share with you all.
With our viewers, and and if anybody does feel like they want to try to get in touch with her, reach out to me. I'm gonna put her website up there so you'll know how. But I think we all know somebody who's been through something like this and who could benefit from this type of ministry.
Yes. And all of our pain may not be the same pain, and all of our scars may not be the same. But even in the midst of that, your story may not be that of sexual assault. But what I want to tell you is that everybody is going through something, that we need to be healed from. Don't be ashamed to share your story. Don't be ashamed to expose your scars. Because what I found was, in the midst of me sharing my story, there's healing. Healing happened for me, and that may not be the same for you, but use your story to minister and to help someone else. Despite whether it's sexual assault, domestic violence, bullying in schools. My son was dealing with so many things in school, but our kids need to hear that we're human and that we have gone through things just like they're going through, instead of hiding the things that we've gone through.
You're so right. You're so right. Well, thank you, and I want to say thank you also to our sponsor for today. It's Posh Maternity in FLowood on Market Street. And if you have anybody in your life who is in need of maternity clothes, it's such a special time, and she has some really cute things to make that time of your life where you feel cute. And she's got some great special occasion clothes. She's got great work clothes. neat casual things that you can transition into your real clothes after you've had the baby. She's got baby gifts and nursing bras and all that kind of stuff that you need at that time. But Posh Maternity in FLowood, we want to thank you and thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll be seeing you around the town.